Why yes, I am subjecting you to reading by candlelight with me because this is my second, that's not a word, my second favorite time to spend in this room. First favorite is sunlight hour. Second favorite is the candles. I have such, I gotta show you real quick. I got candlesticks for myself and they're so cool looking. I love them. Anyway, I've been uploading the previous video for like 2 hours. And then I accidentally moved the hard drive and it disconnected, and so now I have to start all over again, uploading it to YouTube. I could just keep the file on my computer while I'm uploading it to YouTube, which I probably should do next time, but my computer was starting to complain that it did not have enough space because I was keeping the uncut, like raw footage in the downloads folder. And then I had a copy of that in iMovie because to edit it you have to import it. And then I had the third copy, which is the edited footage. So, I mean, I can, when I've exported the edited footage, I can just delete the other two. So next time I should probably just, keep the file on my computer while I am uploading it to YouTube. Just in case something like this doesn't happen. It was 79% done. And then I scooched my computer over so I could read here, and oh well. I thought, like, I reloaded the page and I thought it would go back because, you know, it went back to the same screen and it still says uploading 79%. I don't know what I'm saying. But it's not doing that. It still says 79% even though the new file says 5 and it's been, you know, going up. So I should probably just cancel it since it's clearly not uploading anymore. Yeah, it's 6%, the new one is 6, and then the old one still hasn't changed from 79, so I'm gonna cancel it. I've already copied the description with the timestamps. Yeah, I put timestamps in all of them earlier. I was like, this is gonna bother me. Even if it doesn't show up in the little bars in the thing, it'll show up in the description. All right, let's start reading the dang book. All right. Day 3. A visit. Crown takes Nona to school. Important news. Hot Sauce and Nona have an adventure. The two princes. The two princes? Who? My brain just went, Babs! I don't think he was called Prince, though. They were just the princesses of Ida. It's the two princes. 3 days until the tomb opens. Dun dun dun. Alright, chapter 11. It's got the 5th house skull with like the wreath. The next morning, Camilla pushed the button and said, "Start." Nona did not close her eyes this time, but stared hard at the black mold marks on the ceiling, as though for inspiration, and began. "I'm holding something down in the water. It's the same water, the good water. But whatever I'm holding doesn't want to stay down. It keeps coming back. To the surface, I mean." I feel like this is a metaphor. "What are you holding?" "The girl with the painted face." "Tell me about the girl." "She's under the water. She's not drowning. She's lying there. Her eyes are closed, I think. The water's cloudy. But then there's the arms still around me. I think I'm mixing parts up." "Show me where." Nona wriggled around in an attempt to embrace herself. She rolled over frontways on the mattress and attempted to get one arm slung over her neck, the other over her waist. Camilla said to these efforts, "Demonstrate on me." Delighted at the opportunity, Nona immediately sat up, ignoring the brief wave of dizziness, and wound her arms around Camilla. She paused halfway and said, "It's a bit, are you sure?" And Camilla said, "You've shown me before, show me again." Nona concentrated on how it felt in the dream, as strange and multi-bodied as it was. She was good at hand at the hand and the mouth. She was good at this, but she hesitated. It's interesting how now they keep saying the hand and the mouth when it comes to stuff like this. Not even like... Technically, this involves neither the hand nor the mouth, but just the body. But the hand and the mouth imitation, I guess? She said, "I can't do it by myself," and took Camilla's arms. She put Camilla's hand on her hip, put Camilla's other hand on her other hip, splayed her fingers, and said, "More, no, there," as Camilla kept up, then reached out to Camilla like she was drowning, like she wanted to drown. It was nice to be this close to Camilla. Camilla's hands on her were a little clinical, a little unsure. "Okay," said Camilla, once they were locked in this clinch. "Anything else?" "No. Was that useful?" "Everything's useful." Camilla detached one hand from Nona's hip to reach out and to press the button of the recorder, but kept the other in place. Nona liked seeing Camilla up close, liked seeing the lines of her collarbone through the unbuttoned part of her shirt, the naked parts of her arms, her ears. Camilla was so sweetly handsome and good. Oh, that's cute. Nona always wanted to be close to her. Pyrrha said it was puppy love, but Nona knew that puppy love was different. It just made you want to open the puppy's lips and play with the puppy's teeth. You know what? I mean, she's not wrong. It's pretty nice like this, Nona said now, and a little doubtfully. "It's funny. I never feel like that in the dream." Said Camilla, but you've said you like it. It's not sexy, though. Camilla's eyebrows went up a little way. Since when do you use the word sexy? The other day, Honesty said he thought nice shoes were sexy, and Beautiful Ruby said Ruby said, "What, just the shoes?" And Honesty said, "No, there had to be feet in them." And Born in the Morning got mad and said that Honesty was just being cheap. Everyone had feet. I love children. Camilla tilted her head, unwound herself from Nona. Nona was a little disappointed. Cam's hair smelled so much like nice dust. What the heck is nice dust? Is this like, has something to do with her obsession with like eating sand or whatever? Nice dust. For some reason that just like really is like putting a yellow tab there for confused, because it's very strange, but it feels like there's an emphasis since it says, I don't know how dust can be nice, but to Nona, it's nice dust apparently. And took the clipboard back. Okay, what do you think is sexy? Nona cheered up immediately at being asked. Excuse me. The huge old poster up on the side of the building at the end of the street, the one the dairy's in. The old poster for shampoo. Camilla looked at her for a few seconds too many. The painting of the two flowers, she said. I think they're very sexy flowers, said Nona. You precious child. All right, your turn. Tell me what you think is sexy. Eating breakfast, said Camilla. Nona lifted up her voice in despair. You don't! It's not fair! We're having a heart-to-heart. I'm sharing deep personal thoughts, and you just want me to eat. Yes, I'm going to talk to the warden. Well, ask him what he thinks is sexy. No, I already know. That made sense. Tell me! I'll eat the whole thing if you tell me. Said Nona, enchanted, starting to pull on her trousers, but deeply distracted. Oh, Cam, please, please! I've been so good lately, and when I haven't been good, it hasn't been because I haven't tried. Yesterday was awful. I need to know. I know it'll help my memory. It's like a deep need inside me. It must be my real self wanting to know, right? So this is work, right? What does Palamides find sexy? I can't. Camilla took up the clipboard and the pen and wrote, serene and tranquil, underlining something once, twice. Strong work ethic, she said eventually. High test scores. Nona buttoned up her shirt and wriggled on one sock, then the other, contemplating this. Okay, she said. Wow. Go get breakfast. Tell Pyrrha I'll be along in a moment. How's your hair? My braids are still okay. Nona decided, and then, do you know who I am yet? Did that help? Not yet, said Camilla, and bent her head back to the paper. It was a dismissal. Nona waited, hoping for another smile like the one she'd got the other day. Camilla did not glance back at her, and no smile came. This filled Nona with sharp pangs of disappointment. It wasn't It wasn't as though the smile had kept things perfect up until now. Obviously, a lot of terrible stuff had happened in the interim. But that smile had been a kind of guerdon. A safeguard against anything terrible touching them. Guerdon? I thought it was guardian. But that's not. I love looking up words. I love looking up words. Can you just tell me the definition? Merriam-Webster. It won't give me the definition in the preview. I don't know why. Reward. Recompense. Oh, okay. Ah, that's an interesting word for a reward. It must be an older word. I like older words. Guerdon. A safeguard against anything terrible touching them. Camilla had stayed home. Pyrrha had come home. Nobody had come to hurt Angel. Nobody had come to hurt Noodle or the Angel. Nobody had come to get her. Thinking about Noodle and the Angel made her forget about Camilla's face and how good the day would or wouldn't be. She fled to the front where Pyrrha, fully dressed, was whisking powdered milk into a jug of water. Her posture, the way her arms were set, her shoulders a little stooped, brought Nona up short. "You didn't go to bed last night," she said accusingly. Pyrrha looked over her shoulder. She smiled that easy smile that always seemed so strange on her strong-jawed, weather-beaten face, set the jug down, and crossed to close the door to the bedroom very, very casually. "Sure I did. I slept like a baby," she said, but her smile didn't crinkle her eyes. They were very alert and brown and watchful. "What were you and Camilla talking about?" "Sounded fruity." Fantastic. Nona in that moment remembered that she had not told either Palamides or Camilla she loved them. She glanced at the plastic jug of pale brown flecked powder and wanted to become happy again, but there was a shadow over her joy now. Pyrrha saw her looking and said, "Hey, you said you wanted pikelet mix. I can't be trusted to bring home groceries sometimes, you know." "Where have you been?" said Nona. "You've been crouching, your right arm's stiff." Pyrrha, who had picked up the spatula, set it down again. Nona wondered how anyone else would believe she slept. There was wakefulness in her eyes, in the short, dead russet of her hair, in the bunching up of her shoulders, so stringy in her clothes, really not a spare scrap of fat or softness to her. But she seemed bigger than her body gave her rights to. Her body was a rubber band, but she moved like an animal, like the big dust-colored cats that lived on the outskirts, the one with venomous whiskers and ruffs. Here I was thinking, oh, mountain lion or something. Venomous whiskers. I do like that, though. I do like the idea of that. Makes me think of Koshek. She moved to the bottom of her voice, and she towered over Nona and said, "I'm putting you in my circle of trust. Can you do that for me? Is it going to be hard to you? Is it going to be hard for you?" "Yes," said Nona, automatically dropping her voice to match Pyrrha's. "No. I went to the park." Nona thought about this for a while. Camilla hadn't smiled at her, and now she was being asked to keep a secret. These flags were serious ill omens, even if there was pikelet mix. I still don't know what that is, but I almost don't want to know. Even 2 weeks ago, she would have become really and genuinely excited for pikelets. She liked scraping the cannelline on them and watching it melt into bright yellow puddles, and they were easy to get down, they were so soft. She whispered slowly, "You know you shouldn't have done that." "Since when have you been my keeper?" Pyrrha just seemed amused. "I don't think you've ever criticized me before. This is rotten. I was about to marry you." "I wouldn't marry you even if you asked," said Nona apologetically. "I love you, Pyrrha, and I think you're wonderful and very beautiful." "Are you kidding?" said Pyrrha. "I look like 2 elbows." "But I don't want to be married to you. You'd never act like you were married to me." This briefly corpsed the person who went to work for her. That's such an interesting little sentence. I love it. Also, it's so interesting how Nona sees other people. I really like it. Pyrrha leant against the sink and seemed pleased that the question at the park had passed, then shook the jug with the powder and the reconstituted milk in it until they were all mixed together. Then she poured it expertly into perfect circles in the hot pan. Yeah, before she started doing that, I was like, is it pancakes? Because when she was talking about putting whatever, the fake butter or whatever on it, I was like, is it toast? No, it's not toast. And then I was like, wait, what else could it be? What else could that mix be? Oh, could it be pancakes? and then shook the jug with the powder and the reconstituted milk in it until they were all mixed together. Then she poured it expertly into perfect circles in the hot pan, each puffing up quickly in the heat, big bubbles swelling like magic in the pale brown batter. "It's the job," Pyrrha said. "You can't take the woman out of the job." Nona kept her voice at its very lowest register. "Pyrrha, why did you go?" Pyrrha did not answer. Nona persisted. "Did you save anyone?" "Because you can tell Camilla and Palamedes if you did that. You know they'd like it." "No," said Pyrrha, "not how they'd understand it." "Then Pyrrha—" "And I wasn't the only one," said Pyrrha, flipping one of the pikelets over. Nona stared at its perforated yellow top, which was a little bit darker brown everywhere, and a bubble had touched the pan. "Don't ask questions, Nona, but do something for me. Be very careful about those kids at that school, the ones you hang out with." This blew all the smoke in Nona's brain in the other direction. I love that! My brain is also full of smoke. Oh my goodness. I guess this is getting a green tag, because technically I like the way it is worded. I don't know if it's like special enough for a blue or emotional enough for a blue tag. Usually blue is like personal favorites in that it, also makes me emotional. "My school? What's wrong with my friends?" "Shh," warned Pyrrha, then said, "Not all your friends. The kid with the burns, that's the one I mean. The one with the stupid name." It took Nona a moment to realize who was being referred to. None of her friends had stupid names. She had to remember what burns were. "Pyrrha, I'm not sure I like you being mean about hot sauce," she said, feeling redder and more bewildered and unhappier all the time. "She has a wonderful name with an important and exciting reason behind it." "Mean? Not my intention," said Pyrrha. "Nona, all I mean is your friend Hot Sauce was there last night at the burned cages, and she was keeping some pretty ferocious company." The world... Okay, calm down. The world revolved. For one moment, Nona couldn't think, and couldn't feel, and couldn't stop her body. Stop her body from what? Pyrrha said more gently, "Sit and take 5. So she sat and took 5 breaths, in and out, and felt better for it. She concentrated on taking deep, bruisy lungfuls through the nose and whistling them out her pursed lips, and by the time Pyrrha had counted out 5, she was at peace again. This was due less to the breathing than it was to the force of her belief in Hot Sauce. If Hot Sauce had been at the burn cages, she had a good reason for it. Nona was one of Hot Sauce's friends, a member of her gang. She wouldn't even say a thing until Hot Sauce wanted to tell her about it. That was all. She relaxed. "Are you mad at me?" said Pyrrha. "You know it's okay to be mad at me." "No," said Nona, "but I'm not going to stop being friends with Hot Sauce." "I'm not saying don't be friends. I'm saying be careful." Nona decided it was time to change the subject. She hated feeling cross with Pyrrha. And there was getting mad. And then there was having a tantrum. It's a bit of a weird way to put that. But yeah, I'm assuming either she really doesn't like getting mad or something actually happens when she gets mad. I suppose something could happen when she gets like really strongly emotional. That would make sense, since I don't think she's ever, not that she's never felt like a strong emotion, but just like regular stuff. "What do you think is sexy?" said Nona in her normal voice. Pyrrha seemed pleased to think about something different, and waited until the bubbles were getting really big before she took the spatula and slid it under a rising patty, flipping it over. Nona had come up by her elbow to watch. "Do you want what I really think is sexy, or what I'd tell someone if they asked and I wanted to impress them?" Pyrrha, I love you. Nona was pleased that Pyrrha understood. "The first one." "Landmine people," said Pyrrha, and when she saw Nona's brows cross in confusion, she said, "Some people were put into the universe to rig it to explode, then walk away. I always fell for that." Damn! Pyrrha out here be dropping well, actually, the last one might have been Palamedes. No, I used it as the caption for the previous video. Was it? What an entirely haunted time to be alive. Ugh. But also, you know, valid. Very, very valid. Nona thought she got it, but was unsure on a few points. But you can't really tell that about someone when you first look at them. Oh, you can, said Pyrrha. You haven't looked for it. She flipped over another pikelet, looked grave and intelligent for a moment, and then said, I mean, also redheads. Love a redhead. There I agree with you completely. Apart from Pyrrha, whose hair was a very deep dark russet, Honesty was the only redhead that Nona knew, and Honesty had big, pallid blue eyes that he could make float in different directions when one wasn't smushed. He also had skin like a horrible ghost's. You could see all the veins in his eyelids. Nona said, Okay, I don't think redheads are very sexy. What? Hang on, said Camilla, opening the door. No, Calamity's opening the door. Busy buttoning himself into Camilla's jacket. That's a very interesting thing you just said, Nona. Let me write that down. Is that pikelets, Pyrrha? You're a legend. Nona wondered how Calamity's couldn't see the hitch in Pyrrha's shoulders, nor all the crinkles in her posture or her clothes that screamed, Park, 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 but took her a moment. Calamity's, what do you think is sexy? Those little outfits nurses wear, said Calamity's promptly. So Camilla had been lying after all. Breakfast that morning was a dismal affair, pikelets or no pikelets. Pyrrha and Calamity's didn't seem to have much to say to each other, though Calamity's was cordial. He ate Camilla's pikelets, saying she said she wasn't hungry, which filled Nona with new hot envy, wishing she had someone to eat food for her. But Calamity's could never stay long, and so there he was resting his hand on Nona's shoulder, saying, Take care of everyone for me, Nona, which was Calamity's all over. Never be good, or even be safe, but leaving you in charge, like he really thought you'd be up to it. Nona always loved him for that. But then once he had gone, Camilla was gray-eyed and quiet and wrathful, and breakfast became almost entirely silent, and Camilla paid far too much attention to what Nona was eating, which was uncomfortable. Nona had negotiated her way through 1.5 pikelets and a piece of yesterday's melon and a glass of water when the door burst open, despite the fact that it had been locked, and a gun made that clunk noise that Pyrrha had explained meant it was ready to spin small pieces of metal through at high speeds, and a voice, through a tinny layer of plastic, said, Heads down, hands up. The first sign of zombie shit and I blow your brain stems. Fun! So things are starting to happen. I don't like it. I mean, like, obviously, I want things to happen, but at the same time, they were being cute and domestic. I mean, I know the entire book can't be that. And I do appreciate the drama. But I also want them all to be happy and safe and healthy. Ooh, 12 is a long one. Yeah, this day is pretty long. Whoops, sorry. Alright, chapter 12 has a, Eden tree. The tree with one single, solitary apple. And for a second there, I almost forgot that, like, stuff is happening. I mean, I had the assumption that when it said Crown takes Nona to school. No, I didn't actually. I thought for a second, maybe it's just chill. My mistake, clearly. Anyway. It's gonna make me anxious. The household had been very well drilled. Even better drilled than her classroom with the gunfire. Nona hit her melamine plate with her forehead and shot her hands in the air. There was the answering clatter of Camilla doing the same opposite of her, of Pyrrha, who had gotten up to refill her glass, hitting the deck, face down on the floor. Booted footsteps filled the room. Nona knew without looking it was 6 sets of feet. They never came with fewer than 6. but as she felt her chin jerked up and felt the rough, dark plastic weave of the hood working over her head, she couldn't help but give a muffled protest. "But I've got to go to school!" Oh, honey. But Blood of Eden never cared if he had to go to school, or clean the whiteboards, or examine the psychodramas Kevin was playing out with 2 erasers that Born in the Morning had drawn faces on. It's fantastic. In the building, people did not come to look when they heard booted feet down the corridor, or a door flung. A door flung violently open. As it happened many times before. Many times before? Do they just, like, come in randomly and just raid them and kidnap them or whatever? Just like, oh, it's just a regular monthly thing. Nona and Camilla's wrists were taped to their sides with cut lengths of silver tape, even as Pyrrha, lying face down, kept saying, "Cool it, Tessafon, you know we'll do what you say. There are too many of you. We don't want to get hurt." But got handcuffed anyway. Pyrrha always got tape and handcuffs. Almost all of the knives Camilla had strapped to her got taken away, but not the very hidden knife. Or at least the one hidden knife Nona knew about. Which probably means that she's got a few more. There were probably more! And no one ever found anything on Pyrrha, which didn't necessarily mean that Pyrrha didn't have anything. Although when Nona had asked her the once, she had said, "What would I have?" and winked. Then they got 2 people on either side of them to march them down the hallway. All the doors were shut tight that morning. One door opened a crack, but nobody emerged. All 3 of them were taken downstairs via the big concrete stairwell with the fizzing broken lamps. And then came the part that Nona really hated, when they would emerge in the cool garage space below street level and be bundled into the back of a big, white, 4-wheeled car. The seats at the back of the car had been taken out, and Nona and Camilla had to lie down, and Pyrrha got locked in the boot. Doesn't sound very comfortable. This was ostensibly so that if anyone shot through the windows, they wouldn't get hit. But as Camilla said, the car doors weren't exactly armored, and there was every chance they'd catch a bullet, and then things would get interesting. Their hoods got pulled off, and even in the darkness of the garage, everything seemed very bright. Why would they pull off their hoods before they got somewhere? Or have they already got somewhere? That seems weird. While they were lying down, one of the people in the masks waved a little machine that went parp over them, and another took a temperature measurement from their mouth and under one armpit. Camilla said they did this to make sure they were alive and not something else. Nona resentfully reacquainted herself with the carpet flooring on the car. It was made of very scrubby, itchy fibers, and it reeked of the fuel they put in the car engine and the mud on people's boots. The windows of the car were tinted and hard to see out of. In the early days, they'd kept hoods on Camilla and Nona the whole way, but this had always contributed to Nona getting violently carsick, so they didn't anymore. Nobody talked. Nona found that if she twisted her head and buried her face in her shoulder, she could smell her shirt instead of the car gas, which at least smelled like sweat and the laundry powder Camilla used. It made the time go away a lot more quickly. Okay, I get it now. Sorry. Once again, I keep having these questions and I'm just like, I should just keep reading. This keeps happening to me. I'm just like, blah, blah, and then this person's like, just keep reading. They did hood them again when the car finally stopped. Nona counted her footsteps and Camilla's and the 2 other Edenites as they were walked down a crunchy gravel road. The door was cranked open, and they were inside somewhere dark, and then they were sat down and their hoods were taken off, though the tape was left on, and they were sitting in a little waiting room. Pyrrha wasn't there. They never left Camilla and Nona alone with Pyrrha. It was always a different little waiting room. Nona found them quite glamorous. Camilla and Palamides, who were both still obsessively trying to work out their routine, said in all likelihood it was some old government building. The insides were all brushed steel paneling and clean white floors, and glossy red and green plants in pots with thick juicy leaves that Nona always longed to chew on. You know what? That's valid. The leather on the sofa covers was worn and old and shiny, and the metal tubing of the elegant chairs was a little bit scratched, but she always felt untidy and out of place in those office rooms. It was like a picture from an old magazine. They did not talk because Camilla had made the little sign with her thumb that said, "Keep silent, we're with strangers." They did not even look at each other until the door opened and someone said, Test reports are back, they're clean. And in came Crown, and Nona's motion sickness and vague need for the bathroom went away. Crown, in her heavy boots and stained zip-up jacket and tough canvas trousers with bulging pockets, was the most beautiful woman in the city and maybe on the planet. Somehow I feel like this is Gideon talking. She filled out the doorway like a light-up sign. She had skin like amber and wonderful hair exactly the color of golden sugar. And if she had ever been in a queue to get something from a shop, everyone would have asked her where she had been all their lives. You could have sold tickets to... Wait. Is that Corona? You could have sold tickets to see her. When she smiled at Nona like she did now, her purple eyes crinkled up at the corners. Why did it take me so long to realize? Crown? Corona? I'm dumb. No, I'm not dumb. I was just thinking very hard about other stuff. Interesting, though. I haven't read the little thing that came in between the second and third books because I have the hardbacks. One of my friends just sent me the link because we were talking about stuff. And she was like, wait, you haven't read it? And I was like, I didn't know about it. So, but she said it was about how they became became part of Blood of Eden. So maybe that would have been useful info. She said it wasn't like technically needed, but oh well. She was always happy to see Nona. Nona was regularly the only one happy to see her. Crown turned to Nona. Come on, cutie, let me get that for you, she said, and took a knife from her pocket and cut through the tape holding Nona's arms to her sides. Once Nona had been freed, she hugged Crown. Crown was fantastically tall and big and gave wonderful hugs. The type where she put her arms around you and really squeezed. The only uncomfortable part was that with their height difference, Nona was always poked by the gun holstered at Crown's right hip and the sword scabbard at her left. I'll tell them to use the plastic ties for you next time, said Crown, once Nona had withdrawn and was working the tape painfully away from her wrists, where it took all the hairs off and reddened the skin. Your turn, Camilla. Oh! For Camilla's bonds were already gone. Even though both her arms had been taped squarely to her thighs, she must have used the very secret knife. Crown's mouth tightened. Camilla was peeling the last remnant away, not making eye contact. All she said was, "Where'd you put Pyrrha?" "The others only deal with the saint after he's scanned. You know that," said Crown. "She's not a lictor. Not everyone's got that clearance, and it's not like you know the whole picture either. She isn't hiding anything." "You don't believe that," said Crown. I almost said Corona. Camilla fell silent. Camilla fell silent. Then she said, "You're still wearing the sword." This seemed to put Crown back on more comfortable ground. "Of course. Makes me think of home." "You're not even wearing it for anyone." You're not even wearing it for anyone. Crown said, smiling, "I didn't take you for a traditionalist. I don't have to wear it for anyone. Anyway, it's an aesthetic." What does it mean, for anyone? As in, like, as a cavalier? I don't know. "It doesn't belong to you. I'll give it back if the owner asks, but otherwise finders keepers," said Crown lightly. "You sound like the captain, you know. They haven't put her down yet." If this was meant to hurt Crown's feelings too, it didn't appear to hit very hard. She said cheerfully, "If I haven't put a pillow over her face, they won't anytime soon." "Won't be a pillow," said Camilla. "It'll be head and hands off and the burn cage at the park." A silvery laugh. Ooh, she'd love that. Head and hands, like a cohort martyr. Can you imagine? Can't you just hear her say, "I regret that I have only one life to give"? You sound like your sister. Do I? Now Crown sounded gratified. Thanks, I could use some of her gravitas, honestly. I always think I sound too flighty for command. I feel like a schoolgirl every time I give a briefing. Everyone else around here feels so old, even if they're 3 years my junior. Camilla said, "Are you trying to disgust me or yourself?" Another laugh. "Because you know me so well, sweetling." "I don't know you, Coronabeth," said Camilla. "I don't know you at all anymore." They fell silent. After a while, Crown said quietly, and somehow more truthfully, "It's good to see you, even if you don't feel the same." But Camilla didn't say anything to that either, only rubbed her wrists where the tape had been. Nona's skin was already back to its nice normal color, and the fine dark hairs on her forearms had regrown themselves. Camilla's skin still looked red and sore. Crown said, They're probably finished now. Don't worry so much. The cell commander wants to see you in private this morning. This isn't official, just a chat. I'm missing school right now, said Nona, reminded of her grief. I'm a teacher's aide, Crown, and there's lots of stuff going on. You've got to skip sometimes, or they won't know how much they need you, advised Crown, smiling, but Nona could tell she didn't sympathize that much. There was a worry pucker right in the center of her forehead, and it wasn't a worry pucker from Nona. I could write you a note. Camilla said, I'm no longer interested in whatever the cell commander has to say. I know, said Crown, and there was that worry pucker again. I know, but try, Camilla. I know you refuse to see it anymore, but we suffer's on your side. We're not the hardliners. We want the same things you do. You really don't, said Cam. Camilla reached down into her shirt pocket to take out a hard shell case. She retrieved the pair of worn dark sunglasses with big smoked lenses and slid them up the bridge of her nose. Nona didn't like the way they looked on her face. They made her look like one of the people who would sit in the back of an armored truck with shiny rifles covered in blazes of orange tape, chewing bubblegum, waiting to get hired by people who wanted to go shoot something up, but didn't have enough friends to scare the militia. Hiring them cost a little bit more than bread. They whistled at you if you'd gone swimming and were wearing damp shorts and still drying your hair, and Camilla didn't stop them the way she stopped other people. When Nona asked why Palamedes said he had made Camilla promise to never stop them, never get their attention, never make a fuss, he said Nona needed to do the same. He said, for one thing, they only had so many towels at home. Crown murmured, all her annoyance gone, Be careful, Sixth. We suffer is not stupid. But Camilla just said, let's get this over with. I had things to do today. You have no idea, was all Crown said, mysteriously. Sorry, my brain put a mental bookmark on the previous page at the bottom, so I need to go check and see what it was. Usually mental bookmarks are for when I skip, like when I'm not reading out loud, because I'll skip from lines of dialogue to lines of dialogue, but this time, I'm not sure what it was. We're not the hardliners. We want the same things you do. I don't know what hardliners mean, so I'm gonna look it up. I mean, I could probably guess what it means, but it's just, I don't have context for this conversation, so I'm trying to glean whatever clues I can. A conservative who is uncompromising. You know what? It's the people who are certain that they are open-minded that are the most dangerous. Nona had been to debriefings, which were always extraordinarily strange and uncomfortable. Okay, I need more light. This candle is actually about to be finished, so I'll have to switch it out soon. There we go, that's better. Okay, Nona had been to debriefings, which were always extraordinarily strange and uncomfortable, and they always escorted you to the bathroom nearly into the cubicle, which was hell, but they had never been seen in private before. Crown led them down unfamiliar corridors until they reached the usual long, dusty corridor they always walked down, and the room they were always led to, the tall, narrow room dominated by one long table, covered in wood veneer and cracked in several places, though very, very clean. I was thinking about Crown Corona, and so I just missed the whole last sentence, even though I said it out loud. Gotta love how my brain works. Crown led them down unfamiliar corridors until they reached the usual long, dusty corridor they always walked down, and the room they were always led to, the tall, narrow room dominated by one long table, covered in wood veneer and cracked in several places, though very clean. There was still pens and loose scraps of paper on the table, as there always were, which gave you the feeling that you were walking into a meeting right as the last one had ended. The ceiling was multi-holed ventilation paneling, the type Nona longed to throw pencils at to see if they would stick in the holes. Oh. The only decoration was a series of portraits clustered at the far end of the table. The portraits were of people from the shoulders up. There's gonna be Wake there, isn't there? Wake's everywhere in Blood of Eden as far as I can remember. Or guess. There were little shelves inset at the bottom of each frame where people had left flowers, dried or plastic, and long burnt-out joss sticks in little glasses, or coins that didn't look like any kind of legal tender Nona ever handed over in return for a bottle of milk. That's interesting. They've got a little shrine for their heroes. Very atheist of them. What distinguished most of the portraits was they were paintings, and very old, all except for one, a photograph of a woman with ferociously red hair and an expression that said she was about to hit the photographer. She blossomed out of a thicket of dusty plastic flowers more numerous than those her painted associates got. Pyrrha was sitting in the special chair they always got out for Pyrrha. It was a hard chair made of bent metal tubing and scratchy matte plastic pads, and they always strapped a thing to her neck that made soft click, click sounds whenever she moved her head back and forth. This was because if Pyrrha made too many sudden movements, it would blow out her spinal column immediately. Like that's gonna do anything. Might. But I'm assuming that Pyrrha still has the healing factor. Yeah, I think. Since they said that both Pyrrha and Nona would be fine out with the radiation. I mean, obviously radiation is not the same. Either way, mean. It made a soft click as Pyrrha turned back her head to look at them. She'd been staring at the portrait of the lady who looked as though she were about to hit the photographer. There was another click, more of a click. The other clicks were with K's, and this one was with the C. I don't know how to click. I don't know how I would differentiate. Now I'm curious to see how the audiobook narrator differentiates. I want to do my next reread, or my next read, my first reread of this book. I think I want to do it in audio because the narrator is fantastic and she has the best voices, and I'm very curious to see what she would do with all the kids and, you know. Anyway, there was another click, more of a click with a C, as the door locked behind them. This startled Nona. She hadn't seen anyone walking with them and Crown down the corridor. Crown didn't seem to care, but Camilla tensed up. There were people already in the room when they got there, dressed the way Blood of Eden always dressed. Nona was forever amazed by their get-up. Everyone she ever met at the meetings covered their heads like they were in a dust storm and wore masks that varied wildly. Gas masks and surgery masks and festival masks with teeth drawn on, and welder's goggles that covered the eyes, and dark glasses that let you see in the nighttime. Everyone had visored eyes and swathed themselves in layers of fabric so it was hard to tell what lay underneath. You know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of the beginning of Harrow, when she was swathing herself in sheets because she didn't have face paint. Okay. Oh, the good old days! When they talked, their voices sounded flat and muffled, or breathy and tinny if they were wearing gas apparatuses. Some people with bigger masks had voices that did not sound like any voice that had ever come out of anyone. Calamities had said they were using tech to hide what they sounded like. Usually there were a dozen people like this at the meetings. Today, there were only 2. It was easy to tell which person was the more important. They sat right in front of the portrait, haloed by that thicket of plastic flowers. A kind of bodyguard stood a little to their left, a long gun slung over their back, and a big machete strapped to each thigh. Nona used to think that was cool, but Camilla said it was completely stupid and not cool at all. Calamities then said Cam was a big hypocrite. I think, I mean, I'm sure she thinks her double swords or double blades are more elegant than 2 machetes. She doesn't have to think that. She knows that. They obviously are. Sorry. The 2-thigh machetes person had their face obscured with an air cleanser toggle mask and welder's goggles, which made them look quite frightening to Nona, like a monster picture. 2-thigh machetes was hooded and wore a long jacket and gloves, so not one bit of their true self was visible. I'm trying to remember who was in that cohort ship. I think it was only Corona, Camilla, and Judith. I kept getting confused which one of them died, Judith or Marta, because Marta showed up in the Harrow's flashbacks. That obviously means that she's dead, since she was a recurring character in the flashbacks. So, There was a ghost of her to be summoned. I don't need to explain this. I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm stalling, I think. The sitting person was less frightening in a white mask, the kind they had a box of at home, and quite ordinary black goggles and a deep black hood. You couldn't see any forehead or ears or any skin at all. This was the commander. In a heavily accented house, she said, "Please sit." Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize they called the language or the dialect, I'm assuming it's the language itself, house. The soft panel lights at the sides of the room had been dimmed, which made the overdressed visages sitting with them at the table all the more indistinct and weird. It also made Crown's beautiful face more beautiful, lending her eyes a softness, and her laughing mouth a tenderness that bright light sometimes took away. Camilla and Nona sat down at the very end of the table, and Crown sat on Nona's left. Camilla took one of the click pens from the table in front of her and rolled it between her fingers very slowly, making it flip from knuckle to knuckle, her hips angled forward on the chair. My time management is not the best, so, yeah. I'm gonna try to finish this video this morning. I just had, like, a roll on Saturday, so I do not expect to be filming more than 2 videos a day from now on, unless I miraculously get a full day. But I'm going on a trip soon, so it's gonna be a pause. Anyway, let's at least try to finish this chapter because I have an hour and a half until I need to leave for work. Okay. Where did we stop? Oh, yeah. Before the ridiculous name. Oh, goodness gracious. Crown pressed one hand to her chest in a formal salute and said, "Crown him with many crowns thy full gallant legions he found it in him to forgive. Representing Ctesiphon 3 acknowledges we suffer and we suffer of Ctesiphon 1. Troia Cell reporting in, Cell Commander." Oh my god. Corona, why? Why you do this to us? Like, I understand you don't really understand your world without your sister, but like, there's gotta be a better way. Let's not be so formal. I have had 3 emergency meetings today, and I'm pretending this is, how you say, a coffee break. Said, we suffer and we suffer. I'm assuming that is just one person's name, but in my brain it went, there's 2 we suffers. So both of them said it at once. I know that's not what's happening, but I just wanted y'all to know. Oh my goodness, we're still getting that flash of exposure adjusting. Because I'm wearing a dark shirt and my background is pretty dark. Oh well, I don't know how to do this. I'm not like a professional videographer or anything. I've always just done casual shit and hoped it looks good. I can do GIF coloring. I can do that. Anyway, no, it doesn't matter. This is a personal discussion, so please consider all information here limited to Troia Cell, not to be mentioned in outside chit-chat. Have you checked the room for bugs? Said Pyrrha pleasantly. Please try to do a little less of the telling me my own business, Ms. Dve, said We Suffer. I'm just wanting to make sure, said Pyrrha, because this is off the log, isn't it? We're in one of the old buildings in the southeast, in a district Blood of Eden doesn't hold. You're outside your zone. 2 thigh machetes drew a big gun from their back and made the ready noise. They said, "The lictor knows too much." Only their air toggle mask had some kind of vocalizer on it, so they sounded like a pissed off robot suffering an occasional blast of static. That needs an orange tag. I can't, I don't know how to edit my voice on this. I can do it in, the audio app that right now I can't remember the name of that I use to make Podfix, but that's too much effort. So we're gonna try our best to edit a robot voice. The lictor knows too much. That was a really weird robot voice. Please forgive me. At ease, said We Suffer, not even looking at Two Thigh Machetes. Two Thigh Machetes did not move to being at ease. We Suffer kept her eyes on Pyrrha. She said, did the drivers take the southern motorway with the bumps? It's a giveaway, said Pyrrha. God damn it, said We Suffer. She waved her hand again. Two Thigh Machete slowly lowered the gun. She said, yes, we are not on our A game today. Let us move on from playing games with how clever and how old you are. I am not impressed, and they annoy my colleague. Two Thigh Machetes? That colleague? I'm assuming. Ooh, I didn't do my stretches this morning. I don't often do my stretches this morning, but today my neck is telling me that I should have. I'll have to do it for now. Camilla popped the nib on her pen and said, who armed the dock workers who busted through Port Authority yesterday? Two Thigh Machete said, here we go. This became, here we go. Sorry. We Suffer steepled her fingers and said, we have a great deal to discuss and that is not really relevant. And Camilla said, let me make it more relevant. Did you know about the Port Authority assault beforehand or didn't you? Before We Suffer could answer this question, the bodyguard said intensely, do you have an objection? Zzz. Camilla said, 22 people were shot. And the bodyguard said, no, 19 people were shot, and 3 zombie loyalists got put down. Get your maths right. Do you care about the 19 or the 3? Because of the mask, it came out very flat like, do you care about the 19? Zzz, which didn't work at all. Nona longed to point this out, but Crown got in first. If you question Troya's cell loyalty, you're questioning my loyalty, Agent. Are you? Because Blood of Eden states I've got right of recourse, and I can take that recourse right here, right now. Does that mean Crown was in charge of that? Oh god, this is too much for my brain to think about this early in the morning. I say, as it's already 12:22. How about it? Bet you've never been challenged before. How does it feel? Oh, Corona. Even through a plastic mask and some goggles and a hood, We Suffer was starting to look distinctly pained. And when the bodyguard intoned, just great, let's go, zzz, We Suffer said, that's much more than enough. You are trained soldiers, not dockside rabble 2 beers down. There is no right of recourse here. I would rate you both, except that we have no time for that whatsoever. The bodyguard and Crown fell silent. Crown's eyes were hot and angry, and her lips were pressed together. As per usual, she looked great. When Nona was very angry, her cheeks went red and her voice got squeaky. She felt deeply envious. Once again, it's that whole dichotomy of, like, am I in love with you, or is this gender envy? Both? Both is good. I mean, personally, I'm not sure, because I feel like I'm pretty happy. But girls are so pretty. We're getting into some interesting shit here, my friends, that you did not need to know about me. Not that you didn't need to. You know what? I'm just gonna stop and keep reading. But, you know, my brain rambles. That is what it is meant to do. I don't know if, you know, it's supposed to, but it's what it does. And I can't do very much about it. We Suffer said, please listen calmly to what I have to tell you, Hecht. The negotiator is in orbit. Camilla stood up. Pyrrha said gently, we were expecting this. Get the intel. And Camilla sat down. From the side, Nona could see her eyes were angry in a different and less magnificent way than Crown's. They were blank, as though everything Camilla in them had been erased, perfectly gray and glassy and still. Pyrrha said, you could have saved yourself half an hour and us a round trip by telling us this back at our digs, Commander. What I do is watch very carefully, Ms. DeVay, said We Suffer. So I'm being very casual, very by the book, so that I can get a chance to talk with my Troya cell in the normal way quietly. Wait. Is the Troya cell them? Like all of them? Like the rebel cell? Kind of? I mean, clearly they weren't involved in that thing yesterday. Troya Cell reporting in Crown. Okay. So Crown is part of... So are Crown, Pyrrha, and Camilla, and by extension Nona, all Troya Cell? And that's it? Or is it like, oh my god, I need information and I'm getting it in bits and dribbles and my brain is not very good at putting things together. Okay. We do not know that last night's thing was a Troya Cell thing. We just know that Crown is a part of Troya Cell. And I'm assuming the rest of the people in the room except Machetes might be Troya. I mean, like, We Suffer is obviously up doing something else, so they don't really apply since they're watching over everything. Okay. So that I can get a chance to talk with my Troya Cell in the normal way quietly. I really should look up what Troya means, because I feel like that might be, like, important. It just makes me think of Trojan, though, which is interesting. The negotiator arriving throws us all into disarray. Many factions did not expect them to dare to come, not with the blue madness. What the fuck is the negotiator? Is that, like, God's people? There's so many, like, different sides of things that I'm just like, are the houses on their own side? And then there's God and the lictors and all of his cohort, I guess. And then there's Blood of Eden and miscellaneous other people. I mean, that's probably about it. Okay, I'm gonna keep reading. How's consensus? Asked Pyrrha. Currently, there's an emergency meeting I'm not attending about whether to blow the negotiator out of the sky. The numbers are now not so in favor of that I'm especially worried, said We Suffer. There are the anarchists who propose this in any case, not the hardcore. They would blow most of the planet up as a middle finger, but they do not have the support. The planet? What planet? The negotiator is a planet? Or am I just thinking about this planet and they don't really care about this planet and its refugees? I don't know. Oh my god. I mean, I understand that, like, we are... In this case, we are Nona, and we're trying to put it together as we go. Officially, I'm willing to be led. Unofficially, I'm wildly delighted by this. As time goes by, as we dither and panic here and lose more and more on Antioch, the anti-negotiation sect loses momentum, and this is a huge boon in many ways as far as we are concerned. The picture, please. Huh. Yeah, I don't know. This was said to two thigh machetes who crossed to the left side of the table and vented their feelings on a cord dangling from the ceiling, making a length of white sheeting come tumbling down the wall. Then they returned to the other side of the room behind We Suffer and started to fiddle with the projector box embedded in the table, mumbling darkly all the while, which sounded through the air circulator a lot like they were fizzing. Nona grew vaguely excited, because she did like seeing projector box displays. With Blood of Eden, all you normally got to see were the maps or numbers or pictures of dead bodies dumped on one another, but you took what you could get. Thank you. Let us get this thing loading, said We Suffer. Crown said slowly, You didn't show me a picture, Commander. No, said We Suffer. I'm showing you now. The guard flicked the switch. In response, the projector hummed to life, and the white screen exploded into grays, but the image projected came into focus so slowly it was barely a picture at all. It looked as though it was being painted on the screen row by row, from the top to the bottom, every row constantly redrafted with higher resolution and sharpness. Nona made out something lumpy on a darker background, but that was it. The limits of technology, excuse it. We are using shortwave, said We Suffer, with a touch of impatience. I knew I should have loaded it before. I've been in cars all of last evening, all the night, all this morning. I'll get thrombosis. Sorry, get stuff stuck in my throat. Let me give you a little preamble. You are about to see a stellar craft sighted. We Suffer looked down at a folder in front of her. 6 hours and 25 minutes ago. It is in orbit as we speak. I assume that is the negotiator. The gray-on-gray blob resolved into a shuttle. Nona had seen shuttles planet-side before the sky changed. Big, boxy cargo launchers with hooks on top so they could attach to the space elevator and launch from the geostation. That's cool! I want to know more about that! Where's the world building? Give me sci-fi world building, please! They looked like cake tins with company pictures etched on the sides. This looked sleeker, and it wasn't etched at all. There were bones inlaid on the sides like fossils in a dried-out riverbed. Whole skeletons curled up as though they had fallen in the shuttle mold, beautifully and intricately set. And it had windows of dark glass. No cargo launcher had windows. I want to see art. I don't think I've ever really even seen art of the Mithraeum. I'm sure it's out there. I need to go looking afterwards. I mean, I've obviously been a little bit wary about looking for fan art because I haven't finished this. And sometimes the spoiler tags don't work completely. Especially on, like, spoilers within tags. Like, one of the spoilers I got, I think, was, like, in a regular piece of fan art, and then someone just wrote in the tags, in the third book, something, 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 and I was like, okay. I don't actually remember what it was. Something about a pompadour and Babs, I think. I don't know. That might have been something else. It's good my short-term memory isn't so great. It's good and it's bad. The moment the image came into view, Camilla's fingers had stilled on the pen. She clicked it so that the nib appeared, and then idly doodled on the paper. Except that Camilla was never idle, and was physically incapable of doing anything that sounded like doodle. We suffer said, "You understand that this image caused serious consternation." "Should have eased your minds," said Pyrrha. "That's not a reinforcement craft." "I agree, it is not a troop carrier. It is maybe 10 meters across," said We Suffer. The bodyguard said hotly, "I can cram a battalion into 10 meters. Give me time and I'll cram 2. Two. In parentheses. We Suffer said, "Perhaps stacking them lengthways?" "The soldiers will do as I say," said the bodyguard. "Then how relaxing is it for the soldiers that we have removed you from active duty?" said We Suffer. "Crown, let your people comment." Okay. Okay. At least now we're sort of getting like a confirmation that Crown seems to be the official head of the Troya cell, though obviously she kind of isn't, like, information-wise. I mean, she is because she's the only one that's, like, within Blood of Eden, technically. I'm assuming! But it's funny that she called them her people. I mean, it does make sense because, you know, they're house people. They're all house people. Crown and Camilla exchanged a significant look. Camilla's stilled fingers had returned to playing with the pen. Nona snuck a look at what she'd been drawing. It looked like nothing more than 3 squiggles and a tiny heart. "How long has the second house installation been abandoned now? Station red as blood?" "What?" asked Cam. We Suffer said, I see where you're going with this, the line of questioning you're bringing. The answer is 3 months since the troops of the Empire abandoned it. I received word yesterday of an investigation last week. It was reported empty. You're wondering about the point of origin?" "Yes, the ship's not big enough for a stele. Don't know if it's big enough for sublunary travel even. Yeah. Don't know if it's big enough for sublunary travel even. How did it get here?" Clown. I'm sorry, Corona. I didn't mean to call you a clown. Crown leant back in her chair, staring at the projector screen, head balanced in the crook of one golden arm. Nona noticed that her biceps showed even through her shirt, and that there were rubber bandages wrapped around one palm. She said, "Oh, that's big enough for sublunary travel, Millie. See the double struts and the massive exhaust? That's a Ziz class." "Millie? Why are you out here calling Camilla Millie?" Probably to annoy her. It was hard for Camilla to hold anyone's gaze behind the dark glasses, but she inclined her head a little way towards Pyrrha, who was staring at the picture. Pyrrha shrugged and said, "Crown's the expert. This is all after my time." Crown continued, "The Ziz isn't cohort standard, and it's not as big on the inside as you think. Look at the windows. See how there are none on the back end? It's mostly engine, not plated either. It'll get to sublume without many problems, but it definitely doesn't have room for a stele. Camilla is right. It can't travel by obelisk anchor." I love the word obelisk. It's such a cool word. It sounds cool. Obelisk. Okay. Camilla had started writing on her bit of paper before Crown finished talking, somehow managing to write and stare intently at the same time. I can do that, but with typing. sometimes I freaked people out with it. And I'm like, I took a class in sixth grade for typing, so technically I can type and look somewhere else at the same time. I do make some mistakes, but... Wow, I'm extra scattered today. Whew. Okay. The bodyguard did not even try to hide their interest in Cam's paper, craning their head to stare in open suspicion, but did not seem to find anything to be hostile about. We Suffer said, "Ah, are you secretly an expert on the stellar craft of your people, Crown? That is a very useful piece to have in our box of tricks." But Crown just laughed. "Oh, only secondhand, Commander. I had a massive crush on a boy who was really into shuttles," she said, and added wistfully, "He had a great body, a dancer, loved shuttles. Didn't look at me twice, so I fell head over heels. Story of my life!" The bodyguard said, "What happened? You eat him?" Crown said, "A boy like that? Not all at once." What the fuck does that mean? I mean, like, obviously my first assumption when she said you eat him was, you know, Lictor style. But Camilla isn't a necromancer. It's probably something sexual. Of course my brain doesn't go to that first. My ace ass is just like, what? I'm lost. "You're foul," said the bodyguard. "Yes, good. The intel, I mean, not anyone's romantic history, which I abhor," said We Suffer. "Let me change my numbers. Lower our estimate to 7 or 8 meters, yes, of troop room. That is even better." But the bodyguard said urgently, "Zzzt! 7 meters, 6 meters, it doesn't matter, Commander. It would take 5 trained zombies to blow a hole in us. The city's only just starting to get over the fear of having their bones come out." Having their bones come out? I don't know why, but I find that very funny. Oh, right, I kept forgetting to, I forgot to put information tabs for Troya Cell. Now that we know that you know, who Troya Cell is. I only have 2 left, so I don't know where the other ones are. I think they're in my room. I'm gonna put it at Crown, let your people comment. I think it's probably the best. Also because that describes the ship and stuff. Yeah, finally, we're getting some information, but at the same time, it doesn't make any sense. This is just how it goes. I should be used to it by now. Okay. Of having their bones come out. If that confidence gets hit again, we're pushed months back on the barracks and they'll regroup. Let me talk to the anti-negotiation faction. You know I've got pull. At this point, I'm kind of like giving up on understanding everything because I know I'm going to go back through and hopefully have more context and it'd be way easier to understand things. Not giving up completely, but I'm like, I just want to keep reading and know what's happening. Have you forgotten Varan the Eater all of a sudden? Asked We Suffer mildly. Have you forgotten hive exposure and blue madness for the sake of your argument? Who says they haven't come up with a cure for that? Who says they haven't figured out magic or a pill or whatever that stops them from throwing up and screaming? Have you forgotten? Assume the worst, ignore the best? For some reason, Pyrrha smiled a little, like she was thinking of something. The bodyguard's head had inclined briefly to the portrait hanging behind We Suffer. Oh, it's Wake. Like, she's a bitch, but Pyrrha liked her, so it's cute. It's a cute moment. We Suffer. Have you forgotten do not catastrophize? I heard that often from her own lips. I have no time for worst case scenarios. We must play with the cards we have been dealt. Pyrrha said suddenly, Crown, how's the fuel consumption on a Ziz-class ship? Thirsty, said Crown, brightening up at being asked. Its cell would be totally drained after a day in sublimary. It only takes the powerful stuff too. Thalurgy enriched, not just hydrogen blend. Hydrogen blend stuffs up the engine. Back to the point of origin. Either the shuttle's derelict, or it dropped through the river, said Camilla. The bodyguard said, What river? But We Suffer interrupted. That is above your security clearance. Ignore. Then I should have that bloody security clearance. Pyrrha said, Then who exactly is the negotiator? That is what we would all dearly love to know, said We Suffer. This has delighted many factions, unjust hopes included. They're saying, We have the power. John Gaius is taking us and the matter very seriously. Well, he would, wouldn't he? Said Camilla. You're selling him back the 6th house. In pieces? If they haven't fucking killed all of them yet. I'm gonna sneeze. Bless me. Okay. But not Jod. Jod, don't bless me. I'd rather be blessed by Gideon. I remember calling her lesbian Jesus to someone, and I think this was when I was still in the middle of Harrow for the first time. It might not have been, but I think it was. And then later on I was like, she literally is though! Okay, anyway. It's the vibes. It's about the vibes. I get the vibes. Information, not as much. Vibes, I'm very good at. I'd like to think. There was a buzzing intake of breath as though Two Thigh Machetes was going to say something, but Pyrrha cut in swiftly. John Gaius has always taken you seriously. Commander, what does this mean about the due date? The due date of what? Who's giving birth? I know that's not what it is. I mean, it might be, but... We Suffer said, the Hopers are asking for a progress report. Her goggles, buried so deeply beneath her hood, were angled towards Nona. Everyone in the room suddenly remembered Nona existed and looked at her too. She felt exposed and regretted everything until Camilla gave her that tiny expression, that smile so minute it could slip underneath the doorway, and she felt better. Oh, that's cute. I like that. Green or blue? So that's both like a pretty description, not like fascinating, but pretty, and also makes me emotional because it's a cute moment. In retrospect, I should have like a tab color for like found family emotions. I'd have to like start a different one, but I have some tabs back here that are just post-it notes that I could cut up. We'll see. This is the first time I've tabbed through something without having read it before. So I could go through and mess with the tabs next time. Okay. Okay, I don't think it's quite impactful enough for a blue one, so we're gonna give it a green one. Crown said, but we've got months and months. She's coming along wonderfully. Point out we've got other ways and means. I point out things to the others continually, said We Suffer. Unfortunately, everyone agrees that we've exhausted the ways and are very, very low on the means. I agree on her magnificent progress, but she is not yet what we hoped for, and I include myself here. Camilla said, tell them collaring lictors hasn't gone so well for you. We Suffer pressed her gloved fingertips together. Well, no, that is not so true, she said meditatively. Tusiphone's interactions with Source Joyeuse and Source Piotra. Mercy? Are they talking about Mercy in the past? I don't know what... Piotra. Faith? No? Pious? No? Tell me what that means. I mean, I'm assuming it's Augustine, but it might not be. It might be duty. Augustine was, Piotra. What does Piotra mean? Joyeuse. I like that it's French. I know French. I don't know Latin. I know French. I know French. I know... Okay. Poetry? Here are all the possible meanings and translations. That's not helpful. I should just put it into open-ended Google Translate, because I need to know which one of the lictors that means. Wait, is it Google Translate? Peter. It just says Peter. That's not helpful. Does Peter mean something? I'm getting focused on this. Polish. Possibly Polish. Peter Pet Cathedral. Piotr. Piotr. I mean, that is Peter in Russian, Piotr. But who is Peter? What's happening here? Oh, was Peter the first disciple? I'm Jewish. I don't know this. Okay, I'm gonna assume they mean Augustine because he was the first. And off the top of my head, I can't remember. Was he the saint of patience? I think he was the saint of patience. Duty is Gideon. Joy is obviously mercy. So patience, I assume, was Augustine because nobody else was really into play that we heard their titles that often. Okay, fine. Okay. I mean, it might have been Gideon, or in this case, Pyrrha, but I don't think so. Okay, let's just keep reading. I have an hour left. Ctesiphon's interactions with Source Who I Is and Source Piotr got us many things. Accurate fleet schematics for the first time in 100 years. Goodness, that was a day. I was only a young soldier then, but that was exciting. And the location of the Mithraeum, very useful. Oh, yeah, right. I mean, like, I know that Gideon worked with Blood of Eden because he was obsessed with Wake, but they all did because they were trying to do that thing and get God's kid. I don't know if they were trying to get God's kid, but they did. They kind of screwed Wake over on purpose, is the assumption that I'm getting from having read Harrow 3 times. So technically that does mean they were in contact with Blood of Eden. Interesting. Okay. And the location of the Mithraeum, very useful. Not to mention a genuine attempt on the life of John Gaius. I know it did not take, but that in itself was important information. We would know nothing about resurrection beasts without Commander Wake. Here, she and the bodyguard saluted the portrait on the wall, and Pyrrha's mouth did something strange. And her source, Aegis, leading to contact with a house 20 years ago. Source Aegis. Aegis is a shield. Guess that's Gideon. A terrible mission failure, we thought, until the posthumous contact a year ago. How did... Or are they talking about Pyrrha's posthumous contact with Wake? And then she but she immediately came out and killed her. Unless she was hanging about and interacting with people other than Harrow and the people on the Mithraeum when she was stuck in that sword or whatever. No, interacting with lictors has not been so bad. Of course, our greatest ally was Source Chrysaor, who taught us all about the obelisks and steles, and who defeated 10 high-ranking house personnel and 1 necromantic monster. Cytherea took out a handful of adults, a handful of kids, and an old science project, said Pyrrha impatiently. And she let 2 new lictors through the net. It wasn't her best effort. Whatever she was doing at Canaan House, it wasn't helping you out. Come on, Commander. When you say they want progress, do you mean they want to weaponize her, or is she merely another part of their negotiation bundle? Chrysaor. That's cool. That sounds like, I don't know, it sounds cool. It sounds Greek. Camilla said, anyone who would describe 2 14-year-olds as high-ranking house personnel isn't interested in Nona as a person. We Suffer held up a hand. Camilla Hecht, she said, I'm not trying to be cruel. You must see it from our point of view. When you stand in our shoes, Cytherea I came to us and identified the crisis of many new lictors about to rise and removed it. There were 8 powerful necromancers at Canaan House. To us, the seeds of 8 more enemies we could never hope to defeat. Lictors take out the very flooring from beneath our feet. We cannot see them coming. We can never stop them. When they arrive, the clock starts, and another home is taken away from us. Our children stateless, our grandchildren perpetual nomads. How many lives balanced against those 10 dead people and that one old thing? Kithiray didn't kill 10 people, Cam said. The pen was held very tightly between thumb and forefinger now, and it didn't move. She only killed 6. The cavalier primary of the second house killed your monster, and died at its hands. The 8th was killed by something even we don't understand, and the 6th house went out on its own terms. Yeah, baby. There was an unpleasant silence. What happened at Canaan House wasn't your victory, Commander, said Camilla. It was Kithiraia's. She was the only person in that whole building who got what they wanted. You just got lucky off the scraps she dropped. And you still think lictors are a gun you can wield? What happens if we give you the one you want right here, right now? In these barracks at full power and mad with hive exposure? Assume the worst, ignore the best, and the worst here is pretty bad. You don't know anything about the worst, said the bodyguard. You want to know what the real worst case plan is? I helped craft it. We go over the cowards' heads. We don't wait for negotiations. We evacuate who we can. We liquidate that barracks. We carpet bomb the whole place. We make sure that every zombie on the planet is dead. I think that big blue son of a bitch is here looking for zombies. No more zombies, no more sphere. Isn't it crazy how you always argue for a plan in which the zombies get to live? Crown slapped the table so sharply that everyone jumped except Pyrrha. Oh, shut up! Just shut up. I'm sick of your fake bravado and bloodlust. Leave my wing alone. I can't stand listening to your rark. That's a cool word. That also does sound like slang. Does sound like slang. Could not be, but I'm curious now. I don't want to take off my horns for work. They look cute. Rark. To scold, rebuke, or... Yep. Kiwi slang again. That's fun. The room fell silent, the bodyguard too. Crown and the guard stared at each other through a layer of air toggle mask and welding goggles with a hate that was genuine. That's not Judith, no. Could be, but I don't think so. You're only boobs, hair, and talk, Crown, said the guard. No, said Crown. I'm boobs and hair and talk and a hell of a sword hand. Do you think that sounded cool? Said the guard. You ignored my warning. Both of you are on a bullet duty in your freeze today, said We Suffer. This is for saying boobs and for being boobs yourselves. Repeat it again, and it is 2 days, as promised. The bodyguards stood so tall and so hard that they trembled, vibrating slightly. Crown fell back into her chair, arms crossed. We Suffer sat back too. The hood fell a little away from her face, and the black lenses covering her eyes now gleamed beneath the dimmed lamps, reflecting all of them in the glass. Troyacel, she said, this is an old conversation. It is one we have had over and over again. You know the ways in which I am sympathetic and in which I am not. It is not simply a matter of the 16. If I say the lictor experiment is going well and that the lictor now talks in full sentences but shows no signs of power, then the others will definitely say, useless, offer her up with the others. If I lie and say we'll soon have a lictor on hand, the Hopers will want me to prove it. And the Hopers are the ones who are in charge of your people's incarceration, and I cannot fob them off. Okay, that's definitely information. Definitely got a lot of information in that paragraph there. Finally. Oh my goodness. Everyone wants to know what we have on the table before negotiators arrive, and I am expected to say our part later today. Exactly what I say, exactly how I say it, should matter very much to you right now. Camilla said, thanks for reminding me. I want 6th house proof of life. Crown said, you know there's no question of harming them, especially at the moment. Proof of life, now, said Camilla steadily. I want to make sure they're still 16. Maybe the reason they want Nona is to patch up numbers and hide how many of them have died under torture. We Suffer said stiffly. I was the one who promised them clemency, Hecht. There is a no-torture clause. Merv Wing know that. Yeah, well, said Pyrrha, you aren't exactly showing a united front. Unjust hope is a very crappy human being, said We Suffer, but my word is still not nothing in the blood of Eden. Pyrrha said, how certain are you of that? There was a long silence. We Suffer wheezed through the mask and then said abruptly, I had intended to give you this anyway. Here. She opened up a brown paper folder and took from it a little piece of electronics, a fingernail-shaped thing with prongs. She tapped on a space in the cracked wooden veneer on the table, and nothing happened, so she tapped again more violently, and it reluctantly opened. A panel in the wood revealing hard white plastic sockets and buttons. Camilla was still again, chin in one hand and pen in the other, more like a picture of Camilla than Camilla herself. There was a sudden noisy crackle from the speakers in the walls, and then a disembodied voice. Master Archivist Juno Zeta reporting, remaining as a representative of the oversight body in lieu of the Master Warden. I count 6 days, 7 hours, and 46 minutes since the last recording. In answer to the previous question, the article title is Heterosedasticity in Viscous Models for Long-Term Data. Headcount standard, all well within the house formerly identified as 6th, awaiting further instructions. What the fuck is going on? I mean, at least, like, you know, I thought there was more than just 16 of them. But, you know, that's better than nothing. Can you see that there's spirit gum here? Anyway. Oh, we're almost done with that chapter. And then I might have to go eat and see if I have more time to do one more chapter before I can go to work. Before I have to go to work. The pen had scratched a tiny mark into the paper Camilla had been doodling on. Her shoulder suddenly relaxed, and she clicked the pen, her face minutely bent towards the mark. Do you accept this as proof of life? Said We Suffer. Yes, she said. This is the next proof of life question. How many pages in my scholar's thesis? We Suffer wrote that down. All right, I cannot guarantee the next drop coming soon under these circumstances, but I will try to make it timely. Please, Camilla Hecht, give me something. How many pages in my skull? Oh, to make sure that, oops. Sorry, I'm just trying to move my legs. If I keep them bent in one position too long, my knees start hurting. I spent the summer after I graduated college, the entire summer, cross-legged on the couch, on the computer. It was not a great decision. But yeah, it kind of fucked up my knees. So now, if I keep my knees folded too long, they start complaining. Folded. You understand what I mean. Camilla sat ramrod straight, very still, in a pose of pure thought. Tell them they'll have a lictor or equivalent if they wait, she said. Now there's a grim fucking thought, said Two Thigh Machetes. We Suffer, said levelly. Then we go with promises? Fine. Is there anything else? Well, I need the bathroom, said Nona. In the end, all of us are people who need the bathroom, said We Suffer, and leant back in her chair. You think I'm trying to shore up my own failing power base, We Suffer said finally. She'd pressed her hands together so that it looked as though she were praying. You think I'm either cruel and traitorous, that I had thought this was the outcome of the great coming together that we hoped for, or stupid, that I was naive. I am not naive. I had just never thought we would be given such a terrible scare or such a terrible chance. I wish for Blood of Eden to fight, and fight beautifully, to win with whatever aid or succor your houses may bestow. I do not want to run anymore. Now, the negotiator comes. What will John Gaius ask for? And what will John Gaius want? And will we give it to him? All I can tell you is I am prepared to give my answer, and I feel that Blood of Eden would stand with me if only they knew how, if they were given good reasons. Please help me give them those reasons. We are done here. Let us all go to the bathroom. Dismiss Ctesiphon 3 Troyacell. Ctesiphon 3. Is Ctesiphon like the bigger group? I don't know military terms. Okay, the next chapter is 12 pages, so that's not horrible. But I should know by now. Like, I should try to know how long it takes me to get through several. Okay, it's been 43 minutes of this video. So let's see. I think I remember where I stopped. Here it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 pages in about 40 minutes with talking breaks. So, if I continued now and didn't eat, I can finish chapter 13 before going to work. I'm not really hungry. I could bring myself a snack to eat at work. Probably not the best idea though, especially since I don't have pasta to go with my sauce. But I look so cute, and I'm gonna have to take off my horns for work. And my lipstick is gonna come off when I eat. But I'm proud of it. Look at that. I sort of did shading. I was like, it's hard for me to color inside the lines, so I decided to line my lips in black eyeliner and then just put my purple lipstick in there. It turned out looking actually really cool, so I like it. I think it goes with the shirt and the hair really well. Decisions are hard to make. Why do I have to go to work? Why can't I just keep reading? Alright, because I'm an adult. And I gotta, you know, earn money for things like buying books and food and stuff like that. Either way, I need to stop this video so it's easier to export. And so I'll know where chapter 13 starts, so I don't have to scrub through the entire video to try to find timestamps. Yes, I decided to try to read another chapter instead of having lunch, because I remembered I had leftovers in the freezer, so I can have lunch at work. Alright, chapter 13. It's got the third house skull. Crown stood and bowed and tapped her chest 3 times with an open palm, which was the blood of Eden Way. Then she began untaping Pyrrha from her seat, unmercifully, with Pyrrha barely wincing. We Suffer kept her seat as they filed out, Camilla in front, Pyrrha after, and Crown bringing up the rear. And before the door was closed, Nona heard the bodyguard say, "Can I bloody well leave now? The package is late for work." "Package is late for work." Crown's jaw was gritted fast. She automatically started shepherding Nona towards the bathroom down the corridor, but Nona said, "Why does Pash hate us so much?" Crown was so startled that her jaw relaxed. "How could you have known it was Our Lady of Passion?" It's bones," said Nona, struggling to articulate. "Beneath her clothes, the way she moves her bones." And Camilla looked at her for the longest time. "Pash," said Crown darkly, "is what happens when nepotism and bullshit collide. Boobs and hair? My hair is naturally big and manageable, dickhead. I haven't been able to condition properly for a year." That sounds like old Corona. There were 2 guards waiting outside. They led Pyrrha away to get her collar taken off. Pyrrha went with them much more meekly than Nona expected, and just turned her head to Nona to say, "Remember to stuff," before the guards shuffled her onward with the butts of their rifle. Remember to stuff. Stuff what? With what? As though she wouldn't. When Nona was locked away in the bathroom stall stealing toilet paper, judiciously stuffing it down her shirt as Pyrrha had taught her, Pyrrha had a very Blood of Eden mindset, if you thought about it. She heard Camilla outside by the sinks saying quietly, "Let me see her." Crown said as though casually surprised, "Do you really want to? It's not a good day. She's in and out. Moving her has been a royal bitch. We've had to keep shifting her between beds ever since we got her here." "Okay, let me see her." "If you agitate," Camilla said, "you know I can help her, Third. You know I want to." Assuming this means Judith. Yeah. Why do I still keep forgetting which one of them survived? Takes me a second. It seemed like Crown was going to say a joke or something dismissive again. But then she said, "So long as Vey doesn't tag along, your call." When Nona rustled her way out of the stall, Camilla looked at her chest, and her mouth quirked in something that might have been the tiniest and most beautiful smile yet. But Crown didn't notice. Her lovely head was bowed, and her sooty eyelashes lowered. Oh, Camilla looked at her chest. Sorry. I think I said Camilla, but my brain said Crown, so I would not be surprised if my brain said, my mouth said Crown as well. Her sooty eyelashes lowered. Nona said, "Are we going right away? I'm going to be so late for school." But Camilla said, "I want to make a quick visit first. Do you want to come with, or do you want to stay in the waiting room and wait for Pyrrha?" The waiting room was not an option. Nona would be stuck with some Edenite bodyguard who wouldn't even talk to her, and no magazines and nothing to look at. But Camilla loved to give people choices. Nona hated how she fell for that every time. Whenever Camilla said something like cereal or eggs, Nona would be tricked into saying cereal, even though she had wanted to choose nothing. But this choice was easy. She liked visits. They took the lift downstairs. Crown said the stairs didn't go as far as they were going. Camilla asked if the depth was doing anything. Crown said in a don't-care-ish voice, maybe it seemed to, but it stopped having an effect after a while. Camilla said, makes sense, distance isn't really an issue. The creature isn't fully instantiated, but squatting in the river. And Crown said, how will we know if it instantiates? And Camilla said, because gravity will change, and the planet will break up. And Crown said, Nona listened to this with one ear only. The toilet paper was itching. Poor Judith. Now I'm trying to think like how the rest of them aren't affected. It's probably the main reason why Palamedes doesn't stick around long enough. Also because of I'm assuming her getting blood sick when he does too much necromancy because her body is not used to necromancy. Pyrrha's fine because she's the cavalier inside of the lictor's body, so I'm assuming, not assuming, it's the lictor's mind that's the problem. Nona is God knows what, so she's fine. She hears it sing. As the lift went down, she said, with the pleasure of realization, "Oh, we're visiting the captain!" I thought that's who the captain was. You know, I want to go back to the beginning and say what Pyrrha said about the captain coming to the party. The captain maybe, not possible. Crown, no. All Blood of Eden buildings seemed to have big elevators going deep down into the earth. In this elevator, Crown had pushed the button to go down 6 whole floors. When they exited, it was very dark and cool, and the halls were made of slabs of concrete cracked by some past pressure. The lights weren't the pretty panels of up top. They were strung on thick, juicy plastic wires, bundled up high on the walls, and they swung in distress when Nona and the others passed them. It was a place where if you whistled, your whistle would echo back. And Nona pursed her lips, but Camilla saw her and furrowed her eyebrows. So she didn't. Most of the doors were open, and the rooms within were dark and full of stacks of abandoned furniture. One door was shut. There was a Hood of Eden person there wearing a full balaclava and a hood to go over it. Nona wondered if they all kept hats and hoods and things in their back pockets just in case. They gave Crown the salute, 3 taps to the chest, and shouldered their gun and walked off down the hall. Crown put her head on the handle and stopped. Hand on the handle and stopped. She suddenly looked tired. Don't worry about volume, she said. Noise never bugs her. Camilla said, is she part of the negotiation? Ha! She wishes, said Crown. No, she's our ticket out of here. That doesn't make sense. Is she the only one God wants? Since she's the only, regular full necromancer left from Eden? From Canaan House? Why am I suddenly really pale when okay, that was just weird. I do not have any more dark purple tags. But we could put she's our ticket out of here. That can be that sounds like a stop turning me into a ghost or a vampire or whatever. Please, just recognize my skin tone. If it's weird, I can always take it out later. Nona hadn't seen the captain in a long time, not since a little before the blue sphere had appeared. Palamedes had banned Nona from seeing her. Camilla said Captain Deuteros thought the solution to every problem was to act like the problem had one solution, and that one solution that nobody else was tough enough to take, and then to pursue that solution as hard as possible. Sounds a little bit like my aunt. She'd always been very intense with Nona. Her new room underground was very spacious, almost the size of their kitchen and living room back on the 30th floor, and bare except for a bed, a chair, and a table cluttered with injecting needles. Assume that's for putting her under so she doesn't, you know, go crazy from, you know, the beast. The lights had been dimmed so low that all the shadows bled into each other. A pole with a plastic bag of clear fluid was right next to the bed, and a tube passed down from the bag to the captain, who was lying flat on her back amidst the white sheeting, wearing something that looked a lot like Nona's worst nightie. Crown made them squirt antibacterial gel onto their hands and fussed until they rubbed it in. She gets everything going, she said. Once they had done that, they were allowed to approach. Even the bacteria. The captain's eyes were shut, her eyelids a little swollen, almost purplish, so it's like somebody had hit her. Her deep black hair had been painstakingly braided away from her face, showing the pretty early silvering at her temples, but that was the only beautiful thing about her. Her skin was dry and her bones showed, especially in the cheeks. Her cheekbones and her square chin looked like they were about to stretch her face to the breaking point. She looked so thin and still lying there in the bed that Nona was very sorry, even if the captain was strange. Camilla approached the bed immediately. She looked at the bag of clear fluid, then reached out to touch the captain's dead bronze wrist and asked, "How are they giving her food?" Crown said, "By mouth. We fed her by tube too. It's all fairly primitive, I'll be honest. She's dehydrated. Who's nursing her?" "She's managed to help herself a couple of times on the best days, when that thing's as far away in orbit as it gets. No one here's as good as you." Nona peeked around Camilla's arm. The captain's black brows drew together, and her face took on a hideous expression, a flat tangle of features that scared Nona so badly she wanted to go to the bathroom again, right until the captain opened her mouth and droned, punctuated by huge wheezing lungfuls of air. "Dust of my dust, such similar star salt, what they did to you and what they wrung from you and what shape they made you fill. We see you still, we seek you still, we murdered, we who murder. You inadvertent tool, you misused green thing. Come back to us, take vengeance for us. We saw you, we see you, I see you." For some reason that made me think of the Litany of Fear. Litany for Fear. The wheezing breath turned into a strangled noise and the captain's body thrashed upward. She twisted like a fish being drawn out of the harbor on a line. A little green box that Nona had taken for a clock started beeping urgently. Crown shouldered forward, but was told tersely, "Give me room, she's not getting enough blood to her heart." And Cam placed one hand flat on the captain's chest before pulling the tinted glasses off her face in a fit of impatience. Nona took these and rubbed at the warm steel with her hands. She liked them so long as no one wore them. Ooh, that's interesting. I'll put a yellow tab there. No one, because I'm assuming she probably hasn't put them on. Either Harrow knows that they're for Gideon and not for her, or Gideon doesn't think they look right on Harrow's face. And she did wear them. She was very happy when... It doesn't matter, I'm analyzing this. But this is like the interesting part, or like the most mysterious. Camilla asked, "What's happening with her kidneys? What are they giving her for the blood pressure?" "A medical thinner, but thought so. Give me a second." Camilla's hands kept pressing down as though holding Judith to the bed. After a moment so long Nona nearly bit through her tongue from anxiety and excitement, the captain went limp. The awful expression on her face, which went slack, if not peaceful. The awful expression left her face, which went slack, if not peaceful. Crown did not sigh or exclaim in relief or anything. She'd chewed her lips so badly they'd split and were now red like lipstick. Camilla's hands hovered over the captain's chest, as though waiting to catch her heart. "That'll do. Take her off the anticoagulants. Is the compulsive shouting typical?" "Lately," said Crown after another pause. "I'm not sure she's in actual pain, Palamides." Palamides said nothing, simply made a quite good Camilla expression, one quirked eyebrow, the mouth not doing much, but Crown smiled and said, "You've been pretty obvious today. Get out of it, Master Warden." He said heavily, "I hope to God you didn't conjure up a medical emergency just to catch me out, Princess." "I wish we had." I wish I was that smart. Don't panic, we're not being bugged. I knew you weren't in the hand bones the ninth maid anymore. I don't know what you and Kim have done, Sextus, but I haven't told. I haven't told, but I have known for a long time. This was only confirmation. Like hell it was. You guessed, said Palamedes. No, you didn't react to Millie. She hates it when I use Millie now. She didn't love it before. Better friends to her than you have been. Glared at for less. Crown quirked her eyebrows together languidly, like she was too tired to make too many facial expressions in a row. Nona didn't know why Palamedes wrinkled his nose as though he'd smelled something bad. Because she was imitating Yanthe, I'm assuming. I still don't know if I'm saying her name right. Even though I listened to the audiobooks, but in my head I'm like overthinking it. The captain and Cam and I were stuck together for a long time, you know, she drawled eventually. I'm not saying I knew from the way you moved or the things you said. You're seamless, I'll give you that. I knew because she stopped being so unhappy. The whole time I knew her, she was grieving. She couldn't hide that. At the same time I was grieving and the captain was grieving, and she and I can grieve alike enough to fight about it, but Camilla was gone. Camilla was gone, and then we met Harrowhark, and she came back. That's all it was. What did you do? She was interrupted by movement from the bed. The captain's swollen eyelids had fluttered open, and she coughed. Crown immediately dropped to her knees beside the bed so she wasn't looming over it. Palamedes took some wadding from the table with the hypodermics and wetted it, and he wiped over the captain's cracked wan mouth. Thank you, she said. Her voice was very low. Nona almost couldn't hear it. Don't mention it. I'm going to give your kidneys a clean, Captain. No, she said. I can do it. Let me. Crown made a noise in the back of her throat as the captain placed her thin hands over her own middle. It took a little bit for her to find her hands, or her middle. She gritted her teeth and a grunt escaped as she did something. It left her gasping, and Palamedes said quietly, a heroic effort. I'll finish you off, ma'am. Don't want that build-up going elsewhere, and put Camilla's hand on the captain's. The captain's chill brown eyes closed again briefly. As Nona watched, the dry, cracked patches on her skin disappeared, and some of the pinched look went from her face, and her color deepened to more of a burnished russet, and less like something that had dried too long on a rack. Nona remembered, and touched Palamedes' arm and mouthed timer. He grimaced and pushed glasses that weren't there up his nose and nodded. The captain coughed, but less awfully. She said throatily, Where am I? You're in the facility, Deuterus. It just says you are, so you're in the facility. I'm gonna say because she already said you're. I already said you're in the early. I've said this word so many times it's stopped being a word. Let's just keep going. Blood of Eden rescued us from Canaan House, remember? They saved your life, and mine and Camilla's. Remember living shipside together? Remember how they stitched you up? Some of the hope wrinkled out of the captain's forehead. Yes, she said darkly, and name and rank, Captain Judith Deuteros. House second, status adept. Cavalier Martidius dead. Crown said, oh, here we go again. Service record, approximately 17 years. Name and rank, Judith, you're regressing. Princess, said the captain at the bottom of her voice. There's still time. I know the cohort will come for us, even me, the pilot. Walk this back. I'll say what's true. They abused your sympathies. Their methods are sophisticated. It's not your fault. I'll tell them everything. Crown's mouth trembled. Oh, will you, Jody? Will you really? You two Hecht, say it and I'll believe it. Say we were all coerced and they used our lives against each other. We were hostages, incidental pieces in a much larger game, played by lictors, traitors, monsters. In a different voice, she suddenly said, Where am I? Where's Marta? Where's Lieutenant Dias? Then she threw back her head and howled like an animal. Crown and Palamedes both held her down. After she'd exhausted herself thrashing, she gasped, I remember, I'm fine. And Palamedes withdrew, though Crown held the captain's hand down against the drab white sheets of the bed. The captain's chest was heaving beneath the outfit that looked like Nona's worst nightie. She murmured, keeping me alive, intact, just so I can work their damn stele and get cohort blood all over my hands. Gun to your neck, blood on my hands. Saints against God. Ooh, I like that. Don't talk, said Crown roughly. You're spouting nonsense. You haven't talked sense in months, she burbled with coughing again. You're the one facing the dark night of the soul, princess. I know that's like, you know, I'm sure I've heard that phrase before, but it's, ooh, I love it. Love that melodrama. Is the 8th somewhere in your family tree? Gave yourself up, gave all of us up. For what? Propaganda and a leash. Promise of salvation without understanding the sin. Hecht and the hideous 6th house mechanism. And now they're taken too. For what? Our lives? Is this living, Corona? You've never lived a single day of your life, said Corona bitterly. It'd be against regulations. Okay, what's the 6th house mechanism? What is it doing? There's so much going on. Captain said, name and rank, Captain Judith Dideros, house 2nd. And Crown scrubbed at her face with her hand, little licks of hair escaping from their elastic and curling over her forehead like light. The captain broke off and said, you think you're walking the tightrope with fast talking in your face. Steeled myself to the talking long ago, but your slipping princess can't save you from that. Heck, my hands are too filthy to save you. It was funny to think of anyone wanting to save Camilla. The captain's eyes restlessly passed to Nona. Sweat was beating on her temples. The captain focused and said hoarsely, 9th, where is the mercy of the tomb? Where is your sword in the coffin? Who are your masters now and who do you master? Where's my cavalier reverend daughter? Where is yours? Her voice rose. Because I saw her in the waves. She was there in the gray water. I saw them all. They hurt me. Where is my hunger? I eat and eat and eat without surcease. My green thing, my green and breathing thing. What the fuck is happening? The captain screamed wordlessly again. Calamities put his hand on her forehead and she cut off mid-scream to lie back in the pillows. Her eyelids fluttered shut and her breathing was suddenly even and the sweat all dried away. He said, sleep now. You need it. My time's up. Okay, I can finish the chapter. What? Where is your sword in the coffin? Why is the sword in the coffin? How would she know that the sword is in the coffin? Unless she's calling Alecto the sword in the coffin. I feel like let's put a yellow tab there because, you know, I feel like her ramblings might mean something. I don't know much about, you know, how crazy necromancers go because of resurrection beasts. Like if it's like regular crazy or if she's like being possessed by it or something. I mean, I don't think that's what it is, but I'm just throwing stuff out there. Crown said, time. Master Warden, what are you talking about? But Calamities put Camilla's hand on his shoulder, and then was Camilla again, shivering briefly once, staring at the hand on her shoulder as though she didn't remember how it got there, taking that hand and running it through her short, dark crop of hair. She cracked her knuckles and stretched her hands behind her back, clasping and loosening the muscles of her shoulder blades, and said, update? Nona said, Calamities told Crown he was Calamities, and Judith woke up and talked a lot, but she had a bit of a yell and went to sleep. It was all kind of weird in my opinion. Noted, said Camilla. Crown, who had checked the captain's neck and then her forehead, noticed Camilla watching and roughly turned away. She said, not very approvingly, Calamity supersedes you, doesn't he? He takes over and you're just not there? Vice versa too, said Cam, avoiding her gaze. For the love of God, Cam, that's a slippery slope downward. She only said, still swearing by God? The warden shouldn't have told. He could hardly have bluffed his way out of this, Cam. He used necromancy, Crown began. And Camilla said sharply, it's called lying. What now, you spilled to your bosses upstairs? Do we become part of the package deal? No, I swear by my sister, said Crown. Camilla's shoulders relaxed minutely. Crown said, it's not my secret. And I've kept your secrets before, you know that. Cam said, I still don't trust you. Doesn't matter. You know, I really am glad you two are together in whatever way you've managed. I'm glad Harrowhark helped you both. I know I said it was dangerous at the time, and I'm sorry that we didn't believe you when you said he was in there. Camilla still did not look at her, but she suddenly said at the bottom of her voice, come back with me. Leave the facility. Before the negotiator arrives, come back with us. Crown stared at her. For a moment, Nona thought she would say yes and was very pleased. She didn't mind sleeping in the bathtub. But Crown said brightly, I like my prison cells more obvious, and I hate not knowing where my next meal is coming from. Camilla said, that's not it. Well, you know, the captain wouldn't last a day without me, and then how the hell am I gonna get out of here? How the hell am I getting out of here? You're a worse liar than Calamities, said Camilla with feeling. You're not a good woman, Tridentarius. Not my name anymore, and none of us are good, said Crown. Except for Nona, of course. Thanks, said Nona, deeply flattered. What about me, said Camilla. You and I don't even own our own souls, said Crown. Crown turned around and put her arms around Camilla. Oh my goodness. That's probably a purple tab and not a blue one. Blue for personal favorites, but it is a personal favorite. Yeah, I can always change it. I can always change it later, we'll see. Well, if I'm doing the audiobook, I'm not going to be going through and changing the tabs. I don't know. The tabs in the first 2 books were mostly for reference. And I haven't gone back to them too much yet. I could put both. I could put both. I could put a purple and a blue. I'm about to get a lot more tabs in the mail, hopefully. So I managed to find them on eBay. There we go. For a moment, Nona thought that Camilla would break just as she had assumed Crown would break. But there was a softness to the way she stood, as a hesitation, a not knowingness to her knees and her feet. And Crown's hugs were so good, so heated and so tender, as though Crown were hugging you solely for her own comfort, as though she wanted your touch more than anyone else's right then. It was better than lying on tiles that the sun had warmed, which was one of Nona's chief delights. A very cat-like delight, but I also appreciate that. But Camilla tightened somehow and didn't put her arms around Crown, and Crown withdrew. Camilla said, "My soul's mine. You give yourself away to anyone who doesn't want you." "Well, I never like to wear the same thing twice," said Crown brightly. But she said, "Try to forgive me someday, Cam. That goes for calamities, too. This is too close to the wire, and I really hate you two hating me. I'm happy for you, believe me. I always had a soft spot for the warden." And Camilla said, "You were part of the lie." What the fuck does that mean? What lie? When they went back upstairs to the waiting room with the juicy potted plants and the furniture, Crown hesitated in the doorway and said, "The transport team has put Dve in the boot. I'll come with you. Make sure they're using cutaway cuffs this time." "You're overdoing it with Pyrrha," said Camilla. "I've heard too much of the Saint of Duty to trust Pyrrha Dve," said Crown, her mouth thinning and that pucker reappearing. "Don't put too much trust in Pyrrha Dve, Cam. There's a lot you don't know." Nona hated anyone criticizing Pyrrha and cast about for a change in topic. She said, "What was the captain talking about before she fell asleep when we came into the room? What's the water? What's the hunger and the green thing?" "Me too, Nona. I would love to know." When Camilla and Crown looked at her, she realized she could not have said anything worse. Crown looked at her with open bewilderment, and Camilla looked at her with an expression that Nona hated instantly. She looked over at Nona with her big, borrowed gray eyes, so clean and clear. Nona always thought if soap could be gray, her eyes would be gray like soap, and she was unsure. She was, Nona realized with a pang that made it all the way down her spine, frightened. "Nona," Crown said slowly, "the captain didn't say anything when you came into the room. She only screamed." These chapter-ending one-liner punches in the gut! Oh my god! I should have had a tab for just weird shit that Nona does. I guess, yellow goes for that, too. Okay, I really need to go, because I need to take my horns off, and I need to clean them. I need to take my lipstick off, which won't take as long. And I need to, get my food and get my stuff. I always had my book with me. I always had Harrow with me. What am I gonna do during work? I can't just be on my phone the entire day. I'll see if I can grab a book. Anyway, I gotta go. Bye.